Well, that was quite the week. Played really good, really bad, not so bad, really good, and still managed just one win. For that matter, all they managed was 2 points. It's funny, the Sens had a legitimate chance to win each of the last 2 games. It got tight late in the third period, and at that point, I knew they were going to lose. Sure enough, they did. I don't know if it's just a case of the team is still young, but even when they play really well, if it's tight late, they're not going to win. Let's just get into it.
Well, that could have gone a lot worse. Oh, thank you. Tie the game, go in overtime, lose. Way to tie up the stick in front. Not.
Oh boy. And just like that, 6-5, the Sens win!
That was just bad. And here we go. They got their dub. Not anymore.
They got a guy with the best name in sports. A guy with the name Brady.
The Sens kicked off their week with a Saturday night thrashing of the Montreal Canadiens. 2 goals in the first period, 2 goals in the second period, 2 more in the third, allowed the Sens to run away with a 6-3 win. I think the biggest key in the win for the Sens, aside from the fact that Brady Tkachuk scored a power play goal in the first minute, was the fact that they got a lot of contributions for a bunch of guys that really haven't given them a lot this season. Evgeny Dadonov has struggled majorly for most of this season. In this game, he scored twice, taking a 2-2 tie into a 4-2 Sens lead. Artem Anisimov struggles to even get himself into the lineup most nights. He had 3 assists in this game. Alex Formenton was just called up. He scored. Braden Coburn was put in the lineup. He got an assist. The Sens got a lot of contributions from a lot of unusual suspects, and it was huge in their win. The most disappointing thing from this contest was every time it felt like the Sens were about to take over this game and run away, they'd let the Canadiens back in it. They score 47 seconds in to take a 1-0 lead. Within 6 minutes, the game's tied. Then they take a first period lead again and hold that until the second, when the Canadiens tie it again. Then the Sens score twice, take a 4-2 lead, and less than 2.5 minutes later, the Canadiens score again and cut it to 1. Fortunately, Alex Formenton got a huge goal early in the third and really killed any momentum and any hopes the Canadiens had of coming back. Unfortunately, after playing so well against the Canadiens, the Sens come back Monday night and are just awful. Pierre-Luc Dubois scores in the first 2.5 minutes of the first period. The Jets add 3 goals in the second period, jump out to a 4-1 lead, sit back in the third. The Sens push back a little, scoring twice, and lose 4-3. And let me be the first to tell you, this score was not at all indicative of how this game went. This game was so bad, the Jets literally outshot Ottawa 2-1. Winnipeg finished this game with 46 shots on goal. Ottawa had 23. They just, really weren't ready to play this game. It was a bit of a shame because they played so well against Montreal, but this was really, really bad. Even when the Sens scored to make it 4-3, there was still, a little over 3 minutes left? And quite frankly, I wasn't excited because I knew there was no chance in the world that they were going to score the 4th goal. They had no business being in that game, and really, they didn't deserve to lose 4-3. And speaking of giving up 4 goals, the Sens play the Oilers 2 nights later. McDavid and Draisaitl chew them up and spit them out, and well, the Sens give up 4 more. Draisaitl scored goals in the first and second period. The Sens scored goals early in the second and third. McDavid then broke the tie midway through the third period. Draisaitl hit the empty net, and the Sens lose 4-2. This game, and a few of the other Sens and Oilers games this season, simply came down to one thing. The Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl, and the Sens don't. Draisaitl had 3 goals, 1 assist. McDavid had a goal and 3 assists. They combined for 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points in this game. Even with last change, the Sens had absolutely no answer to this 2-headed juggernaut. And let me tell you, no matter how hard the Sens worked, McDavid and Draisaitl were just running them roughshod. You have to give the Sens some credit. They played pretty well in this game, and maybe deserved to get this game to at least overtime. But sometimes the best players in the world are just going to be the best players in the world. And quite frankly, that's what happened in this game. Thankfully, the Sens would have another crack at the Oilers the following night, and they would do a much better and terrific job on McDavid and Draisaitl. McDavid and Draisaitl combined for just 1 assist in this game, but it didn't matter because Devon Shore scored a tie-breaking goal at nearly the exact same time McDavid did a night earlier. Jesse Puljujarvi hits the empty net, and the Edmonton Oilers skate away with a 3-1 win. And that one Sens goal was huge too, as downtown Connor Brown got the goal to extend his goal-scoring streak to 6 straight, tying Drake Batherson and 3 others for the Sens' all-time lead. Oh, and by the way, that goal also kept the Sens as the only team left in the NHL not to get shut out so far this season. Who would have ever imagined we'd be able to say that? Unfortunately, we're also able to say the Sens went 0-9 against the Oilers this season. 18 points on the line, the Sens got 0. None. Zip, zilch, not a thing. That's not good. Thankfully, that means the Sens and Oilers are now finished for the season. As always, let's get in to this week's 3 stars. This week's 3rd star is a young center who didn't necessarily light it up this week, but I thought was real steady, and so for that reason, this week's 3rd star is Ottawa Senators forward Josh Norris. Like I said, Norris didn't exactly light it up this week. He had 2 goals in 4 games, but I thought he was just real solid. The Sens don't have a lot of centers they can trust, and quite frankly, the more and more I watch Norris, the more and more I can trust him. He plays heavy, hard minutes against some good players in this league, and struggles at times, and plays really well at others. Especially against Edmonton on Thursday. There were 1 or 2 times where I thought he saved goals with some terrific defensive plays. I thought he was solid when he needed to be, and for that reason, Josh Norris is star number 3. And now, that brings me to star number 2. Again, this guy didn't light it up huge offensively this week, but I thought he was real good for the team, and quite frankly, at times I thought he dragged his team into the fight, and so this week's 2nd star is Ottawa Senators forward Brady Tkachuk. Again, Tkachuk didn't light it up tremendously offensively this week. He had just a goal and an assist, but he had 15 shots, 19 hits, he roughed up Draisaitl, he fought Shea Weber, he was doing everything he could to drag his team into the fight, and at times, he was the reason his team was in the game. Brady Tkachuk is never going to be the guy that dominates you offensively, but Brady Tkachuk is also the kind of guy you need him on your team. The things he does away from the puck, the things that he does aside from scoring goals are just so valuable to this team, and you saw that on display this week. And so for those reasons, Brady Tkachuk is star number 2. And that brings me to star number 1. This guy had goals in every game, was real strong at times, and this week's number 1 star is Ottawa Senators forward Connor Brown. He is bad, bad, Connor Brown, baddest man in the whole downtown, badder than a whole King Kong, meaner than a junkyard dog. I've been hard on Connor Brown at times this season, and quite frankly, I feel like he deserved it. He was getting a breakaway at least 1 every game for the first month and a half of the season, it seemed like, and no matter how much effort he put into it, he never scored. Here we are midway through April, and Brown has goals in 6 games in a row. Let me tell you, that shot he put over the shoulder of Koskinen in the first Oilers game, my goodness, that was a thing of beauty. The biggest thing about Connor Brown too is he can wheel. Like, he's really quick, and he's a tremendous penalty killer for this team. The Sens' penalty kill certainly wasn't flawless this week, and neither was Connor Brown. But I thought he had a real strong week, and for that reason, he is star number 1. So to recap the 3 stars, Josh Norris is star number 3, Brady Tkachuk is star number 2, and Connor Brown is star number 1. And that brings me to this week's most disappointing player. This week's most disappointing player is a guy that only got into 2 of the 4 games this week, but I really wasn't happy with his game. And so this week's most disappointing player is Ottawa Senators defenseman Josh Brown. I can remember one specific play where I was really angry. The puck's in the corner against the Jets. Josh Brown is standing there punching Matthew Perreault in the face, not paying attention to the puck at all. It goes in front to a wide open Dubois, who puts it in the net. So here we are in a National Hockey League game, And punching someone in the face is more important than making sure the puck doesn't go in your net. It's these kinds of plays I can't stand, and quite frankly, I wasn't a super big fan of the trades for Brown, Goodbranson, and Coburn. You put all three of them in the lineup, I think the Sens are just way too big and way too slow with not enough puck movers. And I just wasn't happy with Brown's game in this one. He played 20 total minutes in 2 games this week. Meanwhile, Chabot was playing 60 minutes in back-to-back days. The Sens need more from Brown so they can get less from Chabot. They didn't get that this week, and so for that reason, this week's most disappointing player is Ottawa Senators defenseman Josh Brown. And that brings us to the week ahead for the Sens, and quite frankly, it's probably not going to go any better. They kick off their week with a Hockey Night in Canada matchup against the Maple Leafs at 7 in Toronto, and then come home for a pair of games against a Jets team that just absolutely ran them into the ground Monday at 7 and Wednesday again at 7. I am by no means looking forward to any of these games. The Leafs matchup might not be too bad for the Sens, as they're losing the season series 4-3 right now. The Sens have taken 1 of the last 2 games from the Leafs, but have lost 3 of the last 4. In fact, if you take out that crazy 5-1 come-from-behind win for the Sens, they haven't beat the Leafs more than once since opening night. Hopefully, things don't get too bad, and the Sens can at least keep it close for a while. And hey, they've got 3 of a possible 4 points from the Leafs in their last 2 games, so there's a chance, right? Unfortunately, whatever chance they have against the Leafs, they have no shot against the Jets. The Jets are 5-1 against the Sens so far this season, and quite frankly have absolutely dominated them in almost every matchup. The Sens played a terrific first game against Winnipeg, blew it late, lost in overtime, then got absolutely dominated in the next game, dominated in the next game, barely snuck out the next game in a last-second goal, and then got run out of the building in the last game despite the score being 4-3. For some reason, the Leafs, the Canadiens, and the Flames have been pretty good matchups for the Sens this season. Meanwhile, the Canucks, the Oilers, and the Jets have not. With 2 games against the Jets this week, you can understand why I'm not too excited about the schedule. It's a 6-point week. I'm going to ask for 1 point. Get that Leafs game to overtime. That's it for this video. Hit like if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with anybody you know, and let me know down below. What did you think of my 3-star selections this week? Who would you have put in there? Let me know, and we'll see you next Saturday after 3 more Sens games.